Peace, what's going on? Tory, you're right, checking in, LOJ Fit Club. Hey, just coming at you with another health tip of the week. And the holistic health tip of the week is so we're going to basically kind of structure this around what we're talking about and what we are combating for this month of July in 2019, which is understanding the connection between lifestyle and mental health, right? So, for example, nutrition, exercise, and how can that either, affect it negatively and or positively based upon what our lifestyle is. Okay, so I want you to stay tuned, listen to this because this is something that is very, it's on the rise, and a lot more people are having you know, mental conditions, right? So the question has to arise is our lifestyles helping to, raise these occurrences in our societies? And if so, what can we do to combat it? And is nutrition and exercise something that we can do, right? So stay and make sure that you watch this whole thing. I'm about to pull up a video right now. It's a TED talk of psychologist who went on there and was explaining these things. So stay on. I'm going to play this video and the important clips of the video, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you the highlights of what I got from watching it, and then hopefully you can do the same and go back and watch it in full. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it.
Is there another way forward? Almost 2 decades ago, my PhD supervisor at the time, Professor Bonnie Kaplan, told me about some families who were treating themselves with nutrients in southern Alberta, Canada. Now, they had bipolar disorder, psychosis, depression. These are serious conditions, and my education in clinical psychology had taught me that nutrition and diet were of trivial significance for mental health, and that only drugs or psychotherapy could treat these serious conditions. But she and others were publishing preliminary data in the earlier part of the century showing people getting well and staying well. And so I decided to study the nutrients, and that's what I've done for the last decade. In 2009, I received some funding to run a randomized placebo-controlled trial using minerals and vitamins, also known collectively as micronutrients, for the treatment of ADHD in adults. And this study was published in the British Journal of Psychiatry in April of this year, and here's what we found. Within just an 8-week period, twice as many people responded in the micronutrient group compared to placebo. Twice as many people went into remission in their depression in the micronutrient group. Hyperactivity and impulsivity reduced into the normal non-clinical range. And those who were taking the micronutrients were more likely to report that their ADHD symptoms were less impairing and less interfering than in their work and social relationships than people who were on the placebo. And 1 year later, those people who stayed on the micronutrients maintained their changes or showed further improvement, and those who were who switched to medications or stopped the micronutrients actually showed a worsening of their symptoms. Now, I need to tell you something here, and that is when I say micronutrients, I'm actually referring to a dose higher than what you'd get out of a vitamin pill purchased in the supermarket. In this study, we gave participants up to 15 pills a day with 36 nutrients. So it would be unlikely that if you went and got an over-the-counter supplement, you would unlikely see these positive benefits, both because the dose is lower and the breadth of nutrients is lower. Now, these the treatment of a 10-year-old boy with psychosis. When his 6-month inpatient treatment with medications was unsuccessful, he was treated with micronutrients. Not only did the micronutrients completely eliminate his hallucinations and delusions, changes that were maintained 6 years later, but the cost of the treatment was less than 2% than the cost of the unsuccessful inpatient treatment. The cost savings alone make it imperative that our society pay attention to the wider benefits of this approach. And there is more good news. Alone, and who may need the additional boost from extra nutrients. But even in the last 5 years, there have been 11 epidemiological studies, cross-sectionally and around and longitudinally, in large populations around the world, all showing the same thing. The more you eat a prudent or Mediterranean or unprocessed type of diet, the lower your risk for depression. And the more you eat the Western diet or processed food, the higher your risk for depression. I know of only one study that has not found this association, and not a single study shows that the Western diet is good for our mental health. What is the Western diet? Well, it's one that is heavily processed, high in refined grains, sugary drinks, takeaways, and low in fresh produce. And the healthy diet is one that is fresh, high in fruits and vegetables, high in fish, nuts, healthy fats, and low in processed foods. What your grandmother would recognize as food. Nutrients can improve the mental health of many people. I leave you with one last thought. Randomized trials in the 1600s showed that putting limes aboard ships headed out for long voyages completely eliminated the 40% mortality from scurvy. But it took 264 years for the British government to mandate that all ships must carry citrus for their sailors. How long will it take our society to pay attention to the research showing that suboptimal nutrition is contributing to the epidemic of mental illness? So this is my idea we're spreading. Nutrition matters. And if we're really ready to get serious about mental health, we need to get serious about the critical role played by nutrition. Thank you.
So, you know, it's not really surprising information. It makes perfect sense. What's surprising is that number one, they're teaching professionals that nutrition plays no role in bettering mental health. That the only thing that plays a role in bettering mental health is medications and psychotherapy. Medications and psychotherapy, nutrition has no role in playing in bettering your mental health. That's an issue. Okay? Let's talk about that for a second. Just use common sense. If eating for us is like fuel, which it is fuel for our bodies, and when we take a major test, one of the main things that they always say is have a good night's dinner before you take your test, then wouldn't that indicate that there's some connection between brain activity and performance and nutrition? So how is there not brain activity and a connection between somebody who has a mental disorder and nutrition? This is the society that we live in, y'all. It makes no sense. This is what they're teaching the professionals that we're going to and seeking for help and guidance. Okay? Next thing I want you to understand is that when you go back and watch it, she showed plenty of undeniable results. Now, here's the thing. Just because they're undeniable results doesn't mean that the society at large is going to change over just like that. And there's reasons why. Somebody's benefiting from the way the society and system is set up now. Okay? I'll give you an example. There has been plenty of alternatives to arise to fuel, like, fuel for cars, things like that. There was a man that I knew of that mysteriously died, who you can go look him up, who came up with, he was filling his car was running off of water, right? Of course, he started getting threats, and then after a while, he just mysteriously died. Because there's plenty of institutions that are benefiting from the industry of oil. So he becomes an instant threat because that system would change. So then they would have to change the whole infrastructure, which they would lose millions and billions of dollars. Okay. Now, she also stated the little boy who had cases of delusions and hallucinations that from giving him micronutrients, it completely eliminated his delusions and hallucinations. Now, before I go even further, let me explain to you what micronutrients is. Micronutrients is minerals, vitamins, and things that have been minerals and things that have been broken down to a very micro substance that we can now take. For example, like a bottle of moringa, which I have over here, which you can order it from us. A bottle of moringa. It has been broken down to a powder, which is now a micronutrient. Spirulina, these are minerals, right? Which is micronutrients. Okay. Things with vitamins, folic acid, right? This is a micronutrient. So, your vitamins, vitamin K and vitamin B and things like that. But really, it's the minerals that matters. Okay. Flax seeds. So in introducing this in high doses, remember she said high dosage, not the dosage that you're going to see that's over the counter, because it has been stripped and very watered down. But in high dosage, you see a big, huge return. So we're going to always have you reach out to people who are well versed in this area. Of course, this is the lifestyle that we live here at LOJ Fit Club, so we're well versed in this area and what supplements to take. The great thing about it is there's no major side effects to those supplements. Okay, you can take supplements and there's, and like spirulina has no side effect to taking it. Moringa has no side effect to taking it, but it has crazy amounts of benefits to it. Okay. Last thing she was mentioning was that I want you to highlight is well, before we get to that, every time you're eating heavily processed foods, including meats and dairy, she didn't specifically call out meats and dairy because I know and I'm pretty sure that it's a real controversial subject, but she keeps saying processed foods. Well, processed foods have a long list, but one of the heavily most processed foods are what? Meat and dairy. Before it gets to you, know how much things that it goes through and the process that it goes through and the injections of hormones and all this kind of stuff. Meat and dairy is a big part of that. Okay, so every time you're eating these things, this is important that you understand what I'm saying. You're raising your chances of occurring and having a mental disorder, and especially your young child who is still not developing, brain is still developing. You're hiring their chances of mental disorders. Okay. Another thing, at the end, she was saying how the British government, it took them 264 years to mandate putting limes on ships, even though it proved and continued to prove that it completely eliminated scurvy. Now, this is what I'm trying to explain to y'all about vaccinations and things. You know, they give credit to vaccinations for eliminating certain things when that's not necessarily the case, because another part of the video, she talked about how a certain kind of fever that babies were getting, that doctors were actually spreading it by simply not washing their hands. And it went from 16% or 18% to 2% as long as they were washing their hands. And doctors got offended, like, you know, how could you say that we're doing this? It's the same thing with these, you know, measles and all this kind of stuff. All that stuff, vaccinations does not get the credit for getting rid of. It is lifestyle changes that it took them 500 years to learn that you know, got rid of these things. So just because the government is not recognizing and showing you, you know, this connection today, and they don't understand it or choosing not to understand it, doesn't mean that it's not correct and it does not have benefits. Okay, if you keep waiting on that, then you will become a victim of the lifestyle, you know, results of how you're living. Okay, so with that being said, you know, I didn't want to keep you for long, but I wanted you to really feel the words that I'm saying. If you want to avoid this, and again, this month we're talking about mental health, and you want to improve your mental health, you need to start taking herbs, minerals, okay, supplements of all kind of, you know, of all kind, but knowing which ones to take, and starting out with a detoxification and exercising, which increases your mood tremendously more than anything else on this earth. In combination with all that, those depressive thoughts that you're having, you need to make sure that you send this video to somebody who has depression, and you need to make sure that you get in contact with us if this is you, so that we can show you how to combat that. These are issues that you may be experiencing or may be trying to prevent. Okay, you can always reach out to us directly wherever you're seeing this, and if not, you can always simply go to our website and request to, you know, get a call, which is LOJFITCLUB.com. Request for a strategy call, and we will reach back out to you. Okay, be sure, hey, do not fall victim to what's out here. All right, peace.